Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky. And in Maryland, my good friend and esteemed colleague, John Webster. John, how you doing there in the old line state?
Hey, I'm doing great, Gary. Another great week in sports.
Oh, you
A
said
lot of
it.
stuff going on. Some of we may not even get to today, Gary. I mean, we got basketball, we got football, we got baseball, we got hockey. We even got men's and women's college lacrosse. I mean, there's so much going on, man. So much going on. And I'm just looking forward to another great discussion with you. But Gary, we'd be remiss if we didn't say hey to the traffic cop, to the producer, John Pitt. What's going on, man?
Hey guys, I just want to remind you that the team I picked, the Celtics, are still in it. What happened to the Suns? I think who y'all both picked to win this.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna bow out of that one. Yeah, because that was my pick. But that's the whole thing about sports, and really what made this weekend so great because as we start with the NBA playoffs, as it were, what made the weekend so great was that sports just showed how unpredictable it can be. And for what it's worth, I am still stunned at the Phoenix Suns just not showing up at all last night. I'm just as stunned as how well the Boston Celtics closed out the Bucks in their Game 7. But John Webster, this whole thing with the Suns and the Mavericks. I'm going to say it like this: the Mavericks took that game. The Mavericks won that game more than Phoenix lost it because they came in there, they took care of business, they ate the food, they slept on the couch, they left the toilet seat up, and then they left the door unlocked when they left the house. That's how much they own Phoenix on their home floor last night. I can't even begin to explain it. You can talk about shooting. You can talk about Chris Paul only scoring, maybe 47 points. The last 4 or 5 games of this series. There are so many things, but you do not get waxed at home in a Game 7. I'm sorry, that's not supposed to happen. That's what pissed me the heck off last night. Take it.
Hey, Gary, the first thing I'm going to say, you and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear it. Sometimes those things will happen. We've all had our butts kicked and taken to the woodshed. It's just unfortunate that it happened to Phoenix last night in a Game 7 with everything on the table to move on to the Western Conference Finals. It was the perfect storm, Gary. Everything that Dallas needed, they got. Go back to Game 2 when Phoenix went up 2-0. Do you remember what Jason Kidd said? He said, somebody else needs to come to the party besides Luka Doncic. Well, guess what? Jalen Brunson came to the party. Spencer Dinwiddie came to the party.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you had to slow down Phoenix. What did you do? You held them to 27 points in the first half, and Doncic had 27 points in the first half by himself.
Yep.
What else did you have to do? You had to slow down Devin Booker. You slowed Devin Booker down. Ayton did not even make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
You're down by 30 points at halftime. It's 57-27. A perfect storm. Am I saying it's right? No. Is it frustrating? Yes. But I will say there is enough to go around of blame. It was one of those nights. It's unfortunate. It's terrible. And it's the last thing you want to see. But I think the other thing that you have to give credit to the Dallas Mavericks.
Oh, definitely.
They played an outstanding game. Luka Doncic, one of the best players in the league. And give credit also to Jason Kidd. What did he do in the first series when they beat Utah? They targeted Rudy Gobert. They put him on skates and had him in all the pick and rolls, and they beat Utah, thoroughly beat them. And you knew the better team won. What did they do in this series? They played bully ball on Chris Paul.
Oh yeah, they neutralized him. They neutralized Booker. They bodied him up. They bodied both of them up. They frustrated them, to the point where they were looking like rugs the way they were flopping around.
And what do you do? How does it make you feel when you're a 6'3" point guard and a 6'1" point guard is posting you up, which is what Brunson did. And Brunson was posting them up. Dinwiddie was posting them up. Doncic was posting them up. I mean, they were just taking turns. And it was like putting him in a spin cycle, in a wash machine. He was just getting spun all over the place. And it was whoever had a turn to get him. And it was just one of those things. And again, Dallas never gave up. Dallas still believed in themselves. Nobody else believed in them. I didn't think that was going to happen yesterday. I thought Phoenix would win. I did not see Dallas's role players showing up. Definitely not showing up like that. Mm-hmm. Give all the credit in the world to Dallas. All the credit in the world to them and to Jason Kidd. Wonderful job he did with coaching them, and a great job by the Dallas Mavericks as a team. A total team effort. And you look at, guess what, Gary? Guess what? 2 Washington Bullets or Washington Wizards, whatever you want to call them, they're going to the Western Conference Finals. Bertans and Dinwiddie. Mm-hmm. And where are the rest of the Wizards? Doing what we're doing right now, talking about sports.
Yeah. Well, John, the thing that we always talk about as writers, and and we talk with you as coaches and players about wanting it more. And I think that's the thing that was frustrating me about Phoenix in this series in general, that there were times it seemed like they wanted it when they wanted it. And last night wasn't one of those nights. And I mean, it's just everything you said about Dallas's reserves are the things that I'm going to say about Phoenix's bench that they didn't have. Those guys did not show up. And, when you talk about Chris Paul and Devin Booker and Ayton and all, just the way that they struggled, and you look for anybody just to step up. And I'm talking about early on. Once it got to 20 points, it was a wrap. And I think that's the thing. I didn't really expect that game to get out of hand the way that it did. And you can look at it at halftime when they're down by 30. And I just said, there's no coming back from that. I mean, it's just Dallas had that look and Phoenix didn't. And, I think when I checked back a couple other times, because I flipped over to watch hockey, which was more compelling in turn in Game 7. But when I flipped back, it was a point where they were up by 46. And I just said, that's just a daggone shame. I mean, I said some other words that I can't utter on this, but I was just really, really mad at Phoenix. It's one thing if you go out there and lay an egg. It's another thing to come out there and not even show up. And again, I don't even know what team that was last night. And the thing that they need to understand, the Suns need to understand, when you go from the basement to the penthouse and you have a chance to claim it all, that window is very, very small. They opened that window last year by getting to the finals. This year, the window, the door, the whole daggone house was there for them to take, and they whiffed on it. And it's now going to either Golden State or Dallas in the West, or Miami or Boston in the East. I mean, it's wide open. I don't even know how to predict this next round for the Western Conference because, again, the way Dallas is playing right now with house money, as it turns out, that Golden State can't look past them. And Golden State shouldn't look past them as well as Golden State is playing. But, again, it's like Phoenix had its chance. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't even know if this team is going to look the same next year.
Well, I'll tell you what, you want to know how you come back from it. All they have to do is call Steve Kerr and talk to the Golden State Warriors, because earlier last week, they did the same thing against Memphis. Mm-hmm. So when I was watching the game yesterday, Gary, I could have sworn I was watching Golden State and Memphis. I had to look at my screen 2 or 3 times to make sure I wasn't watching a replay, because it looked so similar that once that snowball started rolling, didn't stop. And interesting things are going to have to be decided this offseason. I mean, a lot of people right now are piling on Chris Paul and he has to go. What do you do with a 3-year, $90 million contract? There's not too many things you can do with that, in my opinion.
No, hey, you just get a fork and a knife and eat it, man. That's all you can do at this point.
I
and
think
there's still gas left in the tank with Chris Paul. I do believe that, but it's up here and it's in here. That's what he's really got to tap into now.
Well, I may feel a little bit different, Gary. I don't know if it's so much in his head and his heart. I just think, honestly, and he is the kind of guy that's not going to say it. Cam Johnson said it. Campaign. What the little
campaign? Yeah.
He made a comment after the game that Chris Paul is not going to feed into. Chris Paul had a quad issue and had a hand issue. Chris Paul is not going to say anything. One of the things I'll say about Chris Paul, I won't question his heart. I won't question his head. But I will say he has some of the worst luck of anybody I know in the playoffs. There's been a pulled hamstring. There's been a broken hand, that's derailed him in these things. And those are things he can't control. They're unfortunate. I don't think he's going to make a comment about last night. That's not how he plays. That's not how he rolls. He's a class act. But I think, the better team got him last night, Gary. And if he was injured, he's going to take it like a soldier. He's not going to say anything, and he's going to move on. He's going to move on, and we'll go from there, man. But hey, man, before we do analysis of the conference finals, man, let's move on over to that East real quick, man, and talk about that East.
Yeah, Boston did what I expected them to do at home yesterday. Again, that's another one of those games where how they did it was probably the most surprising, especially when you look at that first quarter. They're jacking up threes. I mean, they were selling for nothing but threes in those early minutes. And I'm screaming at the TV. It's like, twos still work, guys. We talked about that many times. Twos still work in terms of getting points on the board. But no, they were looking for threes. They weren't selling for threes. They were looking for threes. And it got them in a hole. Just as quickly, they're back in it. Just as quickly, they're ahead, and once that train got going, there was no pulling back. Congratulations to them, and I think a game like that, to me, offered more proof about just what a value, just how much Jason Tatum means to that team. Just, again, I think he, in this series in general, he took a step to that next level if he wasn't there already, but yeah. I mean, that just basically, confirmed he is ready to put a team on his back and lead them farther. What do you think?
Well, Gary, I think Jason Tatum is one of the top 10 players in the league. But one of the things I will say, and I'll agree with you, a 2-point shot is still very good to me. I think what you and I face, Gary, we're old now. We don't understand the new game now. I think that's what they would say. That's passed us by, Gary. Well, let that train continue to pass me by, because I will always want a 2-point shot and a guaranteed layup before I take a three. One of the things that drives me crazy, and it happened yesterday at Boston, Tatum will get inside that elbow. He'll get inside the lane and have a 15, 17-foot shot, and he'll kick it out to a wing for a three.
Yeah.
I'd rather see him take the 15 or 17-footer. I saw Marcus Smart yesterday drive to the basket, have an uncontested layup, and kick it into the corner for a three.
Mm-hmm.
I want the two. When you can get it. I have no problem if you want to shoot a three. I have no problem with the three coming in the flow of the game. But I don't always need you to make a three happen. Sometimes take a two. The two is just as good, especially when you miss the three, hits long, starts a break going the other way. Again, you and I are old, Gary. What do we know? That's not our style of basketball is not what they do anymore. So, but with that being said, I give Boston credit. Tatum, the last two games, the 46-pointer in game 6, the 30-some pointer yesterday, he carried him. He did a great job. Don't forget the quiet unsung hero, Jaylen Brown. He did a great job too. He got some major buckets. He got some major points, and he will drive to that basket. He won't settle for a three, which is a reason I really like Jaylen Brown. I like Tatum, but I really like Jaylen Brown because he's going to drive and try to get fouled and get to the line. Marcus Smart is what I call a true traditional Boston Celtic. He's a throwback to the Danny Ainge, the Dennis Johnson, the Bob Cousy, the Sam Jones. That's Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart is not somebody you can depend on to make a consistent three-point shot, but you can count on him to make a defensive play. You can count on him to run your team. You can count on him to make the right and correct pass, and you can count on him always to play great defense. And I love what he brings to the table. Now, some of those shots he takes, I'm not crazy about it, but sometimes what they say as a coach, you got to let a kid do some things in order, because you want so much of them from other ways, you got to let him do a couple things. So he got the job done. And I think Boston moving into this next round against Miami, I'll take Boston. Boston's my favorite team. You and Pitt both know this. I'll go with the Celtics. Yeah. But it will not be easy, because I'm going to tell you right now what Miami's going to do. They're going to run Jimmy Butler at Tatum. They're going to run PJ Tucker at Tatum, and whoever else they can find to run at Tatum. Tatum is going to see a steady dose of players. It will not be somebody who gets tired. They will tire him out. That'll be the goal, because he will see each game 3 to 4 different defenders.
Yep, I agree with you. Yeah, I still like the Celtics in that series, but like you said, it's not going to be easy, because Jimmy Butler is playing probably the best of his career. Jimmy Butler basically is showing in this postseason the mistake of giving up on him. Chicago gave up on him. Philadelphia gave up on him. He made Philadelphia pay for giving up on him.
Don't even talk about Philadelphia. They kept Tobias Harris instead of keeping Jimmy Butler. That's all I'll say. Yeah. That's all I'll say.
Yeah. And look, decisions like that are why folks in Philadelphia are now wondering, whether you change some of the front office, whether you change coaching, in that, because everybody's saying, well, look, it's another series that Doc Rivers has blown. Look, I really feel like a lot was working against the 76ers in these playoffs, because they needed the perfect storm for everything. They needed Embiid, they needed Harden. There's probably somebody else but they needed all their stars to step up. And what have we seen from James Harden? The same old, where, he'll show up some games, but not show up for games that count. And that's why they're at home. But let's go back to Jimmy Butler. Let's go back to Miami. That team now, the way I look at the Heat, it's like if they weren't banged up 2 years ago, they might have been the bubble NBA champion and not the Lakers. They're healthy now. They're more mature now. Tyler Hero, having watched him and Bam Adebayo at Kentucky, and just seeing the maturation, not just physically, but just emotionally, and in terms of their shot taking, shot making, their decision making. And that's where you see the Jimmy Butler influence. You can say whatever about Jimmy Butler, maybe being a little bit of a hothead, or maybe being a little bit of, I don't want to say not a ball hog or something, but being greedy. But the guy he's determined. I'm telling you, he will take the game to you and make you try to shut him down. And more often than not, it fails. And that attitude is rubbing off on the rest of that team. I'm not looking past Miami by any stretch, but Boston right now is playing the way Boston should be playing at this time of year. And, just like you like the Celtics, the Celtics are probably my secondary team, just because I've always just been a fan of the fact that, look, they put 5 brothers on the floor at one time before any other team. And say whatever about Boston as a city or something, but K.C. Jones as a coach, Bill Russell, K.C. Jones as a player, Sam Jones. It's just gone on through the years, but that team, that's the reason why, they're battling the Lakers is the most successful team, is because they figure out a way to get it done. And they're getting it done this year, even after a coaching change, after, a regime change. And you can say that, oh, he's doing it, with Brad Stevens as players, but that guy has put his own philosophy in there that's taken him a step further.
They weren't the number one ranked defense with Brad Stevens. And I like Brad Stevens. I think he's a very good coach, and I think he's done some good things in the front office. But this team right now, I mean, they're tough, Gary. I mean, yeah, you have Jason Tatum. Yeah, you have Jaylen Brown. But then you have some other options there. You have Grant Williams, who can, he plays great defense. I mean, he just played against Anatumbo. He just played a great series. And he had 27 points yesterday. Really, really plays a hard-nosed player. You're getting Robert Williams back as your aircraft carrier in the middle. That's really going to help out because now you can move Al Horford back to the bench and get those points and those rebounds coming off the bench along with Thiessen as well. That's going to be really great. Then you also have coming off the bench, you'll have Pritchard coming off the bench. He's going to help out a great deal. It's just, I like Boston, but Miami is nothing to sneeze at, nothing to laugh at. We didn't even mention Bam Adebayo. He's going to have to be somebody they're going to have to deal with. You got to slow him down. Tyler Hero, 6th man of the year. You're going to have to slow him down. You're going to have to find a way. Boston is going to have to make some adjustments. Just like Miami is going to come at them to find a way to stop Tatum, Boston is going to have to find a way to not shut down. You don't shut down Jimmy Butler, but you got to put controls on it. And you also have to realize, even if Butler doesn't go off, other players on that team still make them go. There have been games when Butler had 40 and they lost because they didn't get Hero in there. They get Adebayo in there. They're going to have to find a way to get some isolations going for Jaylen Brown, to get him free, to get himself going, because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at Tatum. It's going to be very, very important that you get other players involved and get some scoring from other players. Very important.
Yep. Well, there are going to be some other game sevens in hockey that we're going to talk about here shortly. But let's shift gears for a second and move on to football, which we normally wouldn't be talking about this time of year. And that other league, the U.S. Football League, USFL for short, the reincarnation, 2.0, whatever you want to call it. It's a whole different format. You don't have all these big names jumping from the NFL to play in a rival league. In fact, if I struggle to name one guy off the top of my head that anybody would recognize. I mean, heck, I'm just watching the games and kind of being nostalgic about the teams that we saw something like 35 years ago, John. I mean, that's just how long it's been. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of enjoying the product because it is an entertaining brand of football. For that matter, I like the XFL when they kept trying to do it. When they tried that second version and then it folded just as soon as it seemed to be, getting a little bit of viewership. So then this comes along, and like I said, it's entertaining. I think it's for guys like you and I of a certain age, it's more nostalgic, even though that USFL was around for only about 4 or 5 years, but it spawned a whole lot of players that helped NFL teams win championships, including one in Washington when they got Kelvin Bryant from the Philadelphia, Baltimore, whatever Stars. Do you remember that name?
Yep. I surely do. Surely do. You bring back a lot of good memories, and a coach that was with the Stars that went to the NFL, Jim Mora.
That's right. Reggie White, remember, he played in that league too.
Yes, indeed. Reggie White played in that league. You had a lot of players playing in the USFL that went on to have great careers in the NFL. One guy that I truly love back from the Washington days when I was a true Washington fan, a guy named Doug Williams.
Yep.
He played in the USFL. I think he played for San Antonio, the Gunslingers.
Let's see. Yeah, it might have been the Gunslingers. I can't even remember now. Of course, we can always Google that. I mean, I was thinking Jim Kelly played in that league.
Wait a minute, you're right. Jim Kelly was with the Gunslingers.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember who Doug Williams was. Jim Kelly was with the Gunslingers. He ran roughshod over the league, and then he ended up going to Buffalo.
Yeah, I think Doug Williams played with the Arizona Wranglers. That was yeah. Again, like I said, there's enough nostalgia from that short-lived league that we can talk about it now. Again, there's nobody that I see in this version that that was going to say, oh yeah, they're going to be great in the NFL, because again, I think this is a league for guys who get cut from teams and are still looking to keep the dream alive and maybe open up a few eyeballs. And that's the thing I kind of like about it. It's a little bit more wide open. Some of the rules are different, but I'm looking at the quality of play, and it's what you expect from a rival team, where they're just kind of throwing everything out there and seeing what sticks. And so I look at the standings, in the Eastern Division, or the Northern Division. The New Jersey Generals, lead. I have a 1-game lead over those Stars, who, remember, John, they played in College Park one year.
Yep. And the New Jersey sitting there right now in first place at 4-1.
Yep. But the Birmingham Stallions, who they've been probably the fun team to watch. Now, having said that, in a way, they should be the fun team. They should be unbeaten at 5-0. Of course, when you're playing all your games at home, because the USFL is playing all of its league games in Birmingham, as opposed to, say, the cities that they represent. That's more a financial move. I think that's more of a move to try to remind some markets that, there's a team here, ready to play in the spring if you can find a venue for them. The thing about this that I like is that they're keeping it very, very simple. And Birmingham is one of those teams that I think, how many, I'm trying to remember whether they had another team. Remember the old World Football League back in the 70s? Which was an entertaining, summer league to watch. And, they had poached a few NFL players as well. Remember, Kick and Zonka went over there.
Don't forget Warfield.
Oh, that's right. Warfield too. Yep. And that was after all of those Dolphin teams. So, again, I think it shows that there's another possible league, that the possible option for NFL players if they get cut. And maybe for some guys that might hold out this summer, who knows what happens, that they end up in there. But that's a question for next spring for us. But I like that they're trying to keep it small. Granted, I haven't seen the crowds turn out as much for some of these other games, as opposed to, say, when Birmingham's playing. But of course, Birmingham is one of those markets that you figure, well, it's a football state. And once the best team in football, the Alabama Crimson Tide, once they're done with spring ball, then you pay attention to everything else that's going on there. But I think that the thing about this is that you're seeing guys really, just take shots downfield, that in a way that you don't see in the NFL, as pass happy as the NFL is. There was one game, I think it was the second week, where it's like, I think this team, even though looks like they had a decent running game, and they started to go to it in the second half, and I keep wanting to say it was the Bandits, Tampa Bay Bandits, that they threw the ball something like on 7 straight plays, just trying to create something, and then it finally got a long touchdown out of it, which was kind of fun to watch. Because, John, if you've ever been to a Washington football team practice and watch them run a play 2 or 3 times until they hit it, and then once they hit it, everybody starts cheering. That's the thing about the USFL that's kind of fun, because you don't see them run a play over and over in the NFL in a game. It's like, if it doesn't work this time, well, maybe we'll come back to it in the second half or something. In this one, they're like, no, we're going to run this until we get it right. And I just found that really, really funny, because, again, I think they kind of give the crowd, the TV crowd in particular, what they want to see. And remember, John, this network, or this league, is being broadcast on 2 networks simultaneously. Yep. When was the last time we saw that? Super Bowl I, maybe?
Yeah, it's been a while, man. It's been a while, but we'll see how this goes, man. We will see how this works out. Gary, we've done it again, man. Another fast-paced show.
Yeah.
Where did the time go, man? Where did the time go?
Well, we blame it on the NFL. We'll have to talk about the NHL playoffs after these conference. Well, excuse me, what am I talking about conference? After the second round gets cranked up later this week. Of course, our Caps are not in it. I don't, moment of silence, all that stuff. Hopefully they'll be back, but next week we will be back talking about even more. We'll be talking about the PGA Championship next weekend probably, because that'll be wrapping up, and our boy Tiger, is planning on playing that. So, he'll give us something to discuss, I'm sure, John.
Hey, man, thanks for the time. I've enjoyed it. It has been another fast-moving week. John Pitt, as always, thank you. We appreciate you. We love you. Everybody out there, have another great week in sports. Watch some football, watch some basketball, watch some baseball, watch some golf, watch some soccer, but just watch some sports. Have a good time. Have some fun. We'll see you next week.
And watch us on YouTube.